Baker City, Oregon, late August, 1880. Beth Roberts willed her hands to stop shaking as they gripped the cream-colored envelope. She hadn't heard from her magazine editor in months and had about given up. Stepping toward a corner, Beth licked her dry lips. Dare she open it here? No one lingered in the lobby of the small post office tucked into the corner of Harvey's Mercantile, and the clerk was working on the far side of the alcove, stuffing mail into the slots. Glancing out the window at the bustling street of the small city that became her home a few months ago, she scrubbed at the fabric covering her arm and wished her scars hadn't chosen this moment to itch. Only a handful of people knew her, so she shouldn't fear discovery. Beth sucked in a quick breath and slid her finger under the flap. A folded page fluttered to the floor, opening as it landed. Her heart rate increased as a second piece of paper, long and slender, drifted several feet across the hardwood. They'd sent her another check. Seconds passed while she stood frozen, unable to take in the renewal of her dream. She stepped forward, then crouched low to pick up her treasure. Masculine fingers gripped the end of the check before she could snatch it up. Beth found herself staring into the twinkling brown eyes of Jeffery Tucker, a fellow boarder at Mrs. Jacobs' home. She bit back a gasp, fumbled for the nearby letter, and plucked it off the floor, praying he wouldn't ask questions. She extended her hand. "Thank you, Mr. Tucker. How careless of me." Her stomach did a flip-flop as his gaze lingered on the paper, then lifted. "Not at all, Miss Roberts. I apologize if I startled you." He offered the check, keeping those mesmerizing eyes riveted on hers. Beth tucked the payment and letter into the envelope, then pressed it against her chest. His brows drew down, erasing the warm smile as his gaze dropped to her hands. "Is everything all right?" Panic gripped her, and she covered the scar on her wrist. Her loose sleeve had left her exposed, and she was sure he'd noticed. All she could think of was escape. "I'm fine. I must get home. Good day." She backed up 2 steps and bumped into someone behind her. "Oomph!" Firm hands gripped her arms and kept her from falling. Beth gasped and scrambled forward out of the man's grasp. "Mr. Jacobs, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you come in."
"Forgive me, Miss Roberts."
Micah Jacobs removed his hat and bobbed his head.
"If I'd known you planned on getting your mail today, I'd have offered you a ride. Zachary and I would have enjoyed your company."
"No need." Beth sidled toward the door and avoided his stare. If only the sun weren't streaming in the front window and illuminating everything in its path. "It's lovely now that fall has almost arrived. I enjoyed the walk." She smiled, then turned and dashed across the lobby. When she had entered, the place had been empty. Now it seemed almost every person she knew had been drawn to the post office. Thank the good Lord Aunt Wilma hadn't appeared. At least these men were too polite to ask questions. Not so with her aunt. That dear woman would dig and pry until she obtained every last shred of information possible. Not that she wouldn't tell Auntie her news, but first she wanted to savor whatever the letter contained. Beth bolted outside, keeping a tight grip on the envelope. She had no intention of revealing her secret to anybody, except to Aunt Wilma, of course, who'd been like a mother. Beth had made it this far without anyone else knowing, and she intended to keep it that way. A shudder shook her at the memory of Jeffery Tucker's quizzical look after he'd glimpsed the check. Had he taken in the dollar amount and the signature of the sender? Would he recognize the magazine from back east? Probably, although from what she knew of the mysterious Mr. Tucker, she surmised he had secrets of his own to guard. She could only pray he'd be charitable and keep his own counsel.